changes you make to items to balance them don't always do what you want. Great example of this from the past is CAITLYN was buying RUNAA'N'S, and because her RUNAA'N'S bolts were stacking her headshot. And so the idea was like, oh, I stack up a bunch of, like, I get RUNAA'N'S because it lets me headshot people a lot more frequently in team fights, and that makes me do a lot more damage. We decided to remove this as a balance change. You know what that did? CAITLYN's win rate actually went up because people stopped buying RUNAA'N'S, which it actually turned out wasn't that good, and people started doing the double Energizer build, which was at the time the RFC Shiv build, which was just better. Like, it was more win rate, and it was like pretty clearly just more powerful in every way, because it turns out that pot-shotting people for massive damage consistently and just having a really consistent output was way more powerful than sometimes getting your headshot more frequently and having a little bit more sustained DPS in cases where you were able to get all your RUNAA'N'S bolts off, right? So there's just so many more things that happen when you that can happen when you change items than when you change a champion. It's very rare that you get like super deeply off outcomes when you change a champion. Like, obviously when you do like a mid scope or whatever, that happens from time to time, but when you change an item, because there's so many champions that are going to be affected by almost any item that you change, you're almost always going to get some outcome that you weren't really expecting, unless you're literally saying like +5 AD or, you know, -100 gold cost. Like, even small things, like for example, changing Catalyst earlier this year to have 2 ruby crystals in the build path, that had a lot of knock-on effects, a lot of consequences for the game that we didn't really anticipate at the time. The expectation was that it wouldn't make Rod of Ages significantly more popular, because it was like, well, it doesn't even change the final item, it's just making a Catalyst a little bit better to build to. It doesn't change Catalyst at all. But suddenly we started seeing everyone building Rod of Ages, right? Because, you know, and maybe it was the case that that was already optimal and we just changed the psychology of it, like, oh, I can buy double Ruby Crystal now, or I see other people buying double Ruby Crystal, this is great, therefore, you know, I'm gonna start buying this. But you have to consider those kind of psychological impacts as well as actual impacts every time you change items. So it is very difficult to tune items, I would say, overall.